This is What Now with AI.
I'm Tom, and I'm an AI skeptic.
And I'm MJ, and I'm an AI realist.
Good morning, MJ.
Good morning, Tom.
Hi, how's it going? Any new AI developments on the horizon?
One is this new thing that's in GPT 5.4, which came out recently, a thinking model.
Yeah.
So, when you ask a question in a chatbot, you can see all of its internal messaging, right? It's reasoning.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's going in the wrong direction. Well, now you can interrupt it.
Okay.
As you're watching its reasoning, if it's going in the wrong direction, you can enter in a prompt and say, no, go this other direction.
Right. I just went back to the Bay Area this weekend, right? So I was seeing student presentation. I did a EdTech program there. There's one capstone project where instead of asking AI to give an answer directly, you have to use like if then else to kind of think through the logic before letting AI show you the answer.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So it's a front end for prompt development.
Yeah. So, and also like it's forcing students to really think through instead of just getting the answer themselves.
Have you seen now that at least a couple of the major models have introduced interactive visuals? Sort of like, infographic.
Right.
Okay. Well, you can now have an interactive visual be the response to a prompt.
I want to say this concept is not new. We have H5P, which kind of does the same thing, letting students interact to learn a concept. And another concept is explorable explanations. Have you heard of that term?
I haven't. What's that?
So explorable explanation is basically similar to interactive visuals. You manipulate the variables to see the changes in order to learn the relationship between different variables.
That's
like what
right.
you've seen, like you put how much coffee and how much water and you will produce what kind of coffee. If you can just see it visually, it's easier to understand, right? So explorable explanation is not a new concept, but as you can imagine, it's much more difficult to create it before the age of AI. And now you have something that you can code very easily, vibe coding using AI. And I think for instructors of all levels, this is great news.
I'm so looking forward to trying to use this.
We obviously are big users of AI ourselves in higher education. It's almost inescapable. We see students using it extensively. Even faculty or support staff are starting to explore the power of AI. However, there's also a sizable group of people in the society who are very against the use of AI because of the environmental impact. So I came across this Substack article called The AI Water Issue is Fake by Andy Maisley. So the thesis of this article is that the environmental concern about AI's water use is overblown. And he has a lot of statistics to support it. And he also explained why major media is trying to cause this fear of the use of AI and its environmental impacts.
I think one of the reasons that talking about the environmental impacts is so engaging to people is preventing risk. You can't turn back, right?
Yep.
So now is the time to be talking about that. Talking about these things. I think that is really important. We need to be careful about it. The element of it that I worry about is when the conversation is, as you're saying, from the media, from the outrage, and we as academics need to do a better job of providing our communities, the public, people who are outside of the institution, information that is more well-rounded, that is accurate, and that isn't driven by the motivations that are talked about in that article.
I have a counterpoint to what you say. What if people within our community who have PhDs, who are like academics here, they are against AI, even they are misinformed?
I can have a PhD in something that doesn't mean I'm an expert in something else.
Right.
So I would put them as members of the general community.
Okay, that's fair.
But I think that we need to think of ourselves that way.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. For example, so there's a lot of outrage about data centers. Okay. The impacts it's going to have on the community. I think it's absolutely right to say, hey, let's have a conversation about whether or not that fits. That's not the same thing as saying AI data centers always have to be that way.
Right.
So I sent you something about modular data centers, right, that are smaller. They're like the size of a semi-truck.
Yep. So I agree with what you say. I think people should really take a look at this AI water issue is fake. But also, I'm trying to play the devil's advocate all the time. So I think the main point that Substack articles says is that a lot of the aspect of our everyday life use a lot of water too. We just don't think about it, right? With AI, it's very sensational. That's why I think people are fearful of building AI centers and electricity and, it's going to make our electricity bill go up. I don't want that.
It is a way maybe for us to displace our fear about what the technology is going to bring.
Yeah.
We can talk about our fear of not having any water more easily than talking about our fear of what AI is going to do, because we don't know what AI is going to do.
Correct.
But we know what would happen if we don't have water.
Yeah. It's scary.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that gives me a new spin on that, to be thinking about how that might be taking place. I think at the same time, I personally really try to show how we can have discussions, not about whether or not we should have AI, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But how inventions and innovations will make it more efficient. I read a couple of things this week about new inventions in the network switches. Those were built before we had AI, so they're not efficient. So there's inventions that are going on to make better switches. Those switches will be more efficient. Using too much water is a sign that the technology is inefficient. When there's inefficiencies, the markets will drive toward efficiencies.
I have another analogy for that. Like in the past, storage is very expensive. A USB flash drive used to be like not even 1 gigabyte. It's like maybe 256 megabytes. But now you can have like 2 terabytes on the same, not even USB flash drive, micro SD card. So small. I think it's going to, like what you said, it's going to be the same thing with AI models. It's going to be more efficient. It's going to cost less resources to run.
I guess the question is, will it happen fast enough? Because we're already, across the world, we're already worrying about water. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why I do support conversations and being really careful about what are the ethical, the cultural, the environmental implications. If there's anything that we do in higher ed I would like to think that we produce people who can engage in those conversations in ways that help us all move forward. Our voices should help us figure out what to do together.
Right.
I have a new development too.
Tell me about it.
The U.S. government is providing funding for projects to develop biological microsensors.
Mm-hmm.
These little machines that will go inside your body and collect data and then put that into a database. And of course, anytime we create a database, that we can ask AI to analyze it.
This will sound very Black Mirror to a lot of people.
Sounds Black Mirror to me.
Yeah, right. But my question is, even if we collect all this data, like a lot of free AI products that we use, we are using it for free in exchange for the information we provide, right? And what are we getting out of it, right? And another thing I'm thinking is kind of adjacent to this. I'm trying to play the devil's advocate again. Actually, AI is a good thing because I think in our lifetime, we may be able to solve a lot of health problems that have been bugging scientists for centuries, right? I think there have been reports saying that maybe in our lifetime, cancer can be treatable because we can use AI to solve some genetic problems that cost, many, many years to solve, or like simulations. What do you think about this possibility?
Yeah, if we put that together with this other news that I read this week about this computer engineer from Australia whose dog has pretty advanced cancer and wanted to develop a vaccine or some way to treat it. So he collected all this data, gave it to AI, and actually he invented an RNA vaccine for the cancer that the dog has. Yeah, so if microsensors are in our bodies, it's going to be collecting data that we haven't had before,
But regardless, I think if we use AI to solve bigger problems like cancer treatment, it's going to benefit the society no matter what.
So you're being the optimist this time, and I'm being the cynic.
I keep playing devil's advocate,
I don't know. If a technology can do something, somebody's going to try and do it. That's my realism.
True.
Boy, I don't know how I feel about being the cynic today. It's just, this feels really weird. So is there anything fun today?
The fun fact is related to what we talked about last episode. Remember we talked about Notebook? We talked about OpenClaw?
Yes.
This one is interesting because it kind of tells us the danger of fully trusting AI to automate and do tasks for us. The headline is Meta security researchers, AI agents accidentally deleted her emails. And essentially, this security researcher ran OpenClaw on her email inbox, but the size of her inbox triggered compaction and then lost her original instruction of not deleting emails unless the bot gets her explicit permission. It just went ahead and just deleted a bunch of emails on her behalf.
I loved that. I what I really like is the title of that article. It accidentally deletes. It's like it was not accidental. So when they say that the compaction caused it, what happens? I was just explaining this to my husband. When you submit something for the AI to analyze, it doesn't necessarily remember from prompt to prompt. Okay, so the way it quote unquote remembers is that you input everything that came before it. So you think you're just asking it like this next question, right?
Right.
But imagine if I asked you this question and in order to answer it, you had to go through everything we've just said in our conversation so far.
Yes.
That's what AI has to do. But it only has a certain amount that it can, quote unquote, remember at one time, hold in its memory. When that gets too big, then it does what's called compaction. That decides what part of this huge memory is important to remember and what isn't important to remember. So what happened in this person's situation was that her inbox was huge. I can't remember how big the article said. Let's say thousands of emails, right? Gigabytes.
Yeah.
And then you give it this prompt, but it couldn't do it without eliminating some of what was in that huge memory, that context. And it happened to take out the guardrail that she put in.
But it's funny because she posted the conversation and she says like, do not do that. Stop. Don't do anything. Stop. OpenClaw. It's like you can literally sense her panic as she sees her OpenClaw emptying her inbox.
Yeah.
I would freak out because I think one thing that we didn't fully explain last time is the difference between traditional AI chatbot and OpenClaw is that OpenClaw has access to the files on your device.
Absolutely.
And like
That's right.
you can interact with other software and services on your devices. So it can organize photo albums for you. That means that it can also delete all the photos.
Anything you can do, it can do, right?
Right.
If you give it complete access to your computer, it can do on your computer anything you can do.
It can format your computer for you.
I don't know if it can format it.
Technically, it can.
Really? Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. It has all the permission. And another thing is, every time it has to feed all the context to the AI, so I can only imagine that the cost is very high. I've seen a lot of power users, they spend hundreds or thousands of dollars each month using OpenClaw.
Yes.
And I actually don't know if the trade-off is better. Maybe it does make your life more efficient in some ways, but also it's pretty expensive.
Oh my gosh. Well,
so I don't know.
I was thinking, I like how you have tied that back to what we were saying earlier about if an AI can do something, somebody's going to figure out how to use it.
Yes. I do like that more and more people are starting to spot AI generated videos or reels, or people have some kind of skepticism of you cannot believe everything you see because, you have the idiom. I'll believe it when I see it.
That's right.
But then now you have all those very realistic AI reels. And if you go on Facebook, half of the comment are like, this is AI generated or I don't know if it's real. I think we need to have this kind of healthy skepticism.
I love that. And if ever I come across something that says, oh, this was made by Tom Chung, I'll be sure to come and ask.
For sure. Yes.
What Now with AI is a product of AI Commons. The contents in this podcast are openly licensed via Creative Commons license BY-NC-ND. Views expressed are those of the individuals and do not necessarily represent those of Michigan State University.
This episode was recorded on March 18th, 2026.